Hi, I'm Steve Mera. Some time back, a good friend of mine, Mick Mclaren, an investigative researcher, stopped by my office to conduct an interview with me. Mick knows that I've been involved in numerous investigations and research in my local area of Bolton, of where I live in the UK. Mick specialises in that type of study of paranormal phenomena, UFO sightings and cryptid incidents and other strange anomalies in the area of Winter Hill, where there's a large transmitter in Bolton in the UK. Mick has done some outstanding work, and at the end of this video I'm going to be presenting some information where you can find out more about Mick's work, his YouTube channel, the cases he's done and the things he's discovered and the people he's talked to. So in the meantime, please, I hope you enjoy this short interview.
And quite often I'm asked, how do I get started in a subject like this? People ask me all the time, how do we get more involved in things? So that's really down to the individual and how much time they have and how much dedication, because this subject consumes you. It really does. You might start off as a part-timer. By the end of it, you're enthralled into it full time. It's very, very hard not to. For me, though, I was interested in the subject through my father, because he had numerous different books. And I think when I was at school, I was reading Eric von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods, because I was interested back then, because I thought, wow, who's this Eric von Daniken, and of course I work with him now. So it's crazy how things work out, isn't it? But nevertheless, though, my first investigation, I want to actively get involved. So I kind of threw myself into a UFO case in Liverpool in 1983. That was my first case. And we're now 40 years on, and I'm still in it. I'm still here. I've learned a lot in my time, but then there's still so much more to learn. And it's an impossible task. If anybody comes into this subject thinking they are going to figure it all out, there is not enough a lifetime. You'll never do it. You just will not do it. But for me, I was really interested in the paranormal and ufological and ancient mysteries, anything really, and anything I'd usually consider a bit strange. Arthur C. Clarke, you know what I mean? The whole TV series. Anything I could get my teeth into, which is a bit strange. And I started doing some educational work in sciences. I did a behavioural psychology degree, and because I realised, obviously, you're dealing with people who claim to have seen strange things, and we've got to understand, how does the brain perceive that? How does the eyes perceive it? How do we cognate an incident? And that really is a big part of it, is how people experience that phenomena firsthand, and what their memory recall is of it. So psychology was definitely, on the books, needed to be done. And then I headed off into parapsychology work for quite a lot of years, numerous different courses, forensic parapsychology, experimental parapsychology, and I wanted to get into the experiment side of things, of course, because I wanted not only just to catch up where people had left off. Things hadn't changed much, to be honest, Mick. They just hadn't. I mean, we were static. And we kept regurgitating the same old stuff over and over again, and not really gaining any not gaining anything, not getting anywhere, just running around in circles trying to figure it out. And I thought, well, I really want to get into advancing the subject as much as I possibly can. So to do that, I have to climb out the box that we currently understand and get into other things. But of course, doing that work led me into people's experiences of alien abduction phenomena and UFO experiences. Because they're all experiences at the end of the day, even profound or not. So I was also interested in that, and I got involved in all sorts of things. Anything was open. Crop circles, gentry encounters, poltergeist hauntings, paranormal, the supernatural, demonological. And then, of course, all the UFO and the subsubjects of ufology, your alien abduction, alien implants, and all those sort of things. into ancient mysteries and, you know, and obviously space anomalies, the whole shebang, really. So it was vast areas, which was definitely going to capture my interest. Manchester Library, used to go there, big central library, exhausted of their book collection in literally 2 years. There was just nothing else for me to read there, and they had fit. I was always looking and reading, trying to gather as much information, learn as much as I possibly can. But then the problem with that is that I was only learning what people's own views and opinions were of those authors, and they vary vastly. Still wasn't good enough for me, because I needed I needed to get out of the field of learning about what people may have experienced or what they believed they've experienced, to actually doing something myself, finding evidence myself. And that means I had to get into experimental research. And after a while, I ended up writing on the subject. Wrote for Woman, you know, if you remember, what was it called? Woman's Own magazine.
Oh yeah.
Used to do a column in there, and then I did New Woman magazine, which was in America. I had quite a few articles in that. I think the last one I did for them was probably about maybe 15 years back, 20 years ago. There was Nicole Kidman's article and mine right next to it. And then you get noted after doing a lot of that type of writing. I ended up writing for a lot of television and being involved. So I did little bits and bobs with Strange But True, Michael Aspel.
Yeah.
And numerous different other shows. I assisted with research for numerous television shows, even Most Haunted, but only on the research side, because, you know, I have my own opinions about Most Haunted, like many others. So of course, you know, and it's a shame because I know those guys very well. You know, I know Carl and Yvette, and but at the end of the day, you know, it's entertainment. But the true fact of that is that they occasionally did capture some stuff which I believe was authentic, just by being in those locations over a long period of time. You know, so the chances are it increases the opportunity of capturing something authentic, and occasionally they did, you know. But then I heavily got involved, and then one day it went from me writing a lot about these TV shows into being in front of the camera. I was very nervous first time, years and years back. Thought, oh my God. And it was okay, I pulled it off, it was alright, it was enjoyable, it wasn't something I was planned to do, and it just picked up from there, you know. And internet helps because of the internet movie database, IMDb, puts your profile on there and all the things you've filmed and been involved with. I'm an executive producer of numerous different documentaries and films myself. And after doing about 400 different TV shows and stuff all over the world, sometimes hosting them, sometimes just appearing in them, sometimes I'm just providing evidence or research, they ended up being picked up for numerous different TV series. I mean, the last one I went for was at the Ridley Scott Studios in London. Now, many people know Ridley Scott, of course. So I've done quite a bit of TV, and I still do bits and bobs. I mean, I'm working with a bigger Hollywood company next week, starting Monday, for about a week of filming, along with Barry Fitzgerald. So we've got plenty of stuff to do, and it's just constant. I still write as much as I can. I've authored about 6 or 7 books now. No time, it's just time. I mean, there's a UFO UITC course which we wrote, which is the most comprehensive course in the world on the subject of UFOs. And we've also got the paranormal one and a metaphysical course in the making. It's just all the time, it's associated, you know, because, like I said, it's never a dull moment in this world, you know, of this subject, because it's rather television, podcasts, radio, writing, courses. I do international lecturing. I go all over the world, travel all so many different countries. I don't remember them all. But my research has taken me overseas, investigation, myself, along with Barry as well. I've been investigating all around the world, various different types of phenomena. I've been involved in some very high profile ones. Then I got into been a spokesman for numerous documentaries and movies. So I've worked with for Fox TV in numerous different series, always subject related, of course. Hammer Productions, which used to be Hammer House of Horror, the old movies. They're Hammer Productions now. I've worked with them. I worked with them with a movie called The Quiet Ones, and it's kind of loosely based on my work, the character, parapsychological work, and they made it into a movie, The Quiet Ones. It's very good. So I've always been involved in stuff like that, and so really, my investigation and research, I still do active research and investigation. I've done probably over 800 hauntings, and numerous different other stuff over the years. I worked privately for contracted services for 16 years on corporate cases. These were business offices, supermarkets, office blocks, housing associations, councils around the country. In fact, we provided them with a protocol document how to deal with this problem should tenants report disturbances. And acting as the clients, we wanted to make sure we protect them, so we wrote them a protocol on how to deal with those things, which is, I believe, was circulated and put all around the country, which are all operative working on. They have that as a blueprint. I think the last one was Stirling Council in Scotland, which I met with maybe six years ago, about the protocol and how to deal with things. And there is a certain way of how to deal with things, because tenants have more rights than landlords now. And according to the law, basically, is with tenants, is that the landlords have to produce a livable home for which they pay rent for. And if there are paranormal disturbances taking place, then they can say, well, you know what, I can't live in this house properly, I'm not paying the rent anymore. And that's a massive issue if you're a landlord, because you want to rent your home, but also you want to be able to control it so that there's no bad press, because you still got to rent your homes at the end of the day. Yeah. So it's how it's all really dealt with, and I was picked up and put on a system by Manchester Public Relations Office. And I got involved in doing some very high-profile corporate cases, one of which was a Ministry of Defence building, and a couple of different companies I worked for. It was a 14-floor building in Manchester, and there's about 36 of us on that investigation. We initially had to pose as electrical engineers, so people didn't know exactly what we were doing when we were assessing the building. And there were some profound paranormal things taking place there. And the security handover, when I say handover, you get security guards all 24/7 at those places. And you do your shift and then you hand over to somebody else, another security officer who does the night shift, and so on and so forth. But this handover notes that go. So everything that you've experienced that day gets noted and handed over to the next staff. And they do the same thing. And they dropped a file on my desk, it was like this, of all the handover notes, pursuing paranormal phenomena, thinking that people have broken in, so they go through a wall. It's equipment working of their own, sounds, images, all sorts of things taking place. And that's really fascinating to come. I mean, these are legitimate security guards thinking these intruders. Yeah. But they're not living intruders in the sense that we know them. But nevertheless, they have to investigate in the same way. So the handover notes are very interesting. There was like a big thick pile of them. And once I did that case for them, they were very happy. They put me on some internal database and I was shared to other high-profile companies around the country, right up to Scotland, where I've been involved in corporate confidential cases. These aren't cases that go out in the press. They're dealt with. They don't want bad publicity. They don't want people to read about this thing. They don't want to put people off, working with them. So we keep it confidential. There's a CAP document. It's a confidentiality assurance policy. It runs for 10 years. If they don't renew it after 10 years, then we are allowed to disclose information. But most of them, those very high profile, will continue every 10 years to keep it under the CAP document, just to make sure that it is kept confidential. I've worked with the police, I've worked with CID in London, Southampton Police Association, done a lot of work with them. I was also involved in big cat identification and paw print analysis, scat analysis, fur analysis on some of these exotic cats. I worked with the Exotic Animal Register for many years. And those things do in the country. You know, since 76 and they brought in the Animal Act, you know, Exotic Animal Act, it's stupid. They did something silly. You know, when you have these amnesties where, in America, where they say, oh, just come and bring in a gun and just drop it in a box and walk away. We won't ask questions and that. Well, they should have done something like that with these exotic animals, because in the 1970s, early 70s, you could actually go to London, and on the streets of London, you'll see somebody walking a leopard. It was just absolutely crazy. So they brought these laws in. If you've got any exotic animals, then you know we don't want them in country. 12 months later, they put out, if you have still an exotic animal, then you'll be fined. There's no amnesty about who you're going to ring to come and collect them. So a lot of people just went up onto the moors in the summer and released them. They thought, no, it's too risky keeping them. Let them go back to the wild. And the thing is with wild cats is they're highly adaptable, probably one of the most adaptable animals on the planet. And they learn how to survive the cold. They learn how to survive the heat. I mean, wallabies from Australia were introduced to the UK years back. They're all up in top of Buxton in Derbyshire.
Yeah, we saw some.
Yeah, I've seen them myself, and they live up there in the cold, in the freezing. But they adapt, and wildcats have adapted. They're using train tracks to travel vast distances backwards and forwards. Especially tracks are not used very often, or not, not used at all. And they're coming into rural areas, and people are seeing them. But it's not like, oh my God, we've got to go after them, because that's what we try and deter. You know, these animals are more scared of us than we're of them. And they're just trying to survive. Yes, they can be associated with animal kills. Usually it's a big giveaway, because cats tend to go for strangulation on animals, and then we can usually see bite marks around the neck area. And anybody who's investigating animal deaths will have a good idea of what could be a large cat or predator of some sort. Of course, some of them aren't, and I've been involved in some of those things which are a little unusual. 360 UFOs, environmental phenomena. But then I thought, I've exhausted. I can't go no further. I need to find out myself what it's about. I ended up in the parapsychological circles being involved in numerous experiments. 19 experiments, 2 of which have only been released to the public. Still 17 are still not been released to the public. I know the reasons why they've not been released to the public, because they're not ready with some of that information. The UFO phenomena ties in directly to that, because people think, well, how do you get from UFOs to the paranormal? Well, you know what, the first type of UFO contact with these beings, entities, aliens, if you want to call them that, they have many different names and many different faces, first appeared around the seance table, not UFO orientated at all. Yeah. Happened to Aleister Crowley, with his manifestation of land, and that shocked him. Happened in the skull experiments. I was involved in some further studies, which was referred to as Phenomena Project. Though I do know associates and friends which were involved at very high levels in the skull experiment. I knew Robin Freud very, very well. And even Robin said, off record, we won't find it in his books, that the entities that turned up, which were non-human, never left. They never left it. Even after the work of the seances, even after closing the circles down. Didn't leave. And this problem can occur, and this is the only warnings I have with people who are heavily involved in this subject. So sometimes the phenomena can have a sting in its tail. Don't get me wrong, it's fascinating to see and experience. It's wonderful. The experience of experiencing something like that is tremendous.
So, in the back garden again, and there's an object up there, sat in the sky. Okay.
There are also plans for new roads, a tunnel under the Peak District, and smart cards for buses and trains. The government
What the hell was that?
They're aware. Sometimes they don't want filming, sometimes they don't mind. Sometimes you're really lucky. Sometimes they won't do nothing. They won't even manifest. They'll see nothing until you put them away. So I always say part of your investigation is do a clear down. In other words, investigate with your equipment and investigate without it as well. Because some of these things do have that conscious connection with the observers. And as soon as we packed the cameras away, it appeared, poof, just like switching on a light bulb. It was massive. Beautiful colours, like welder's art. Mediums are easily used by the phenomena. They can give that information to people who are a little bit more intuitive than others. Psychics, mediums, intuitives, call them what you will. And they can be used. They can be used as a puppet. And they will relay information. Doesn't mean that information is correct. Doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't mean it's coming from an authentic source. Because you can always obtain the information from the sitters.
Yeah.
And if you're going in there and you know everything about Uncle Albert, and suddenly she turns around and says, oh, well, they're saying that he used to like bowling and he used to do this and that, and you think, well, it's got to be in there. That's the problem. And we realise it doesn't just lie in the paranormal, it lies in the ufological world as well. Deception and manipulation of our perceptions. It's the same thing. This phenomena that presents itself as the paranormal, if we consider it earthly, then we would say it's an ancient earthly phenomena. If UFOs and UFO entities are coming from some other vast distance of space planets, I assure you they're not, then what's an extraterrestrial source having to do with an ancient earthly phenomena? It shouldn't have the same, but we do. They are connected. They're one of the same source. It's just a different mass. It's just a different interaction. So the biggest problem is that people thinking that they're here to save humanity, planet Earth. We know that's not the case. We've already gone past that problem. 25 years ago we should have been doing something. It's too late now to save planet Earth, unfortunately. I'm not going to tell people that. But and it's a rolling system anyway. You can't press the button today and think it's all going to stop. All the damage to planet Earth. It takes 25, 50 years anyway. And the reasons they know this is because they're already spending a lot of money and time and effort into looking for new planet Earth and saving our own. They're not going to save our own planet. So the aliens aren't here for that. And they're not here for us. Save humanity. Masses, millions of people that die fighting each other on wars. They don't even put a stop to it. They don't care about that. Quite happy to sit back and let us diminish each other. So what they're here for? They're here for their own agenda. They're doing exactly what they want to do. Sometimes people will say, well, I had a good experience. Well, how do you work out a good experience? Because it wasn't a bad one. It's just agenda. If the police officers come to your house to arrest you and question you about some incident, if you've done it or not, was it a bad incident? Was it a bad experience? Or was it a good experience? It's all down to agenda at the end of the day. And what people will perceive it to be. Sometimes they're really nasty. There are injuries and death associated to UFOs. Those incidents get highly swept under the carpet. It's my job and Barry's to lift that carpet and reveal them, which we have been doing over the years. Level playing field, that's what it needs. It's not like we're pro, we're into all the bad stuff. We just want a level playing field. We just want to say, look, if you come into the subject and you're interested in UFOs, then there it is. Take it or leave it, good and bad. And it's the same for the paranormal, because it links into demological stuff, this nasty stuff, this hitchhiker phenomena. And I'm not on about phantom hitchhikers that you pick up in a car, I'm on about things that track back home with you.
Thank you for watching this interview. And if you want to find out more about Mick's incredible work he does in the area of Winter Hill, then I will provide descriptions regarding his YouTube channel underneath in the description area under this particular video. And I encourage people, please go and have a look at his work. He's doing some great stuff. And the things he's discovering and the reports that he's getting are really profound. So thank you again, and please don't forget to like, share and subscribe.